Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brainstorm Brewery. I'm Corbin Hostler, hanging in there, playing hurt. I'm sick this week, and yet here we are, podcasting for you. I'm joined by DJ and Jason. What's up, guys?
Yep, I am DJ. I am a buyer for 95 MTG. I buy and sell a lot of Magic cards, and that's why you listen to me tell you what to do and what not to do with your Magic cards.
Jason, what would you say you do around here?
I'm the talent.
All right. Well, I'm joined by
reason people listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I'm joined by DJ and the talent. I'm Corbin. I'm the editor of Channel Fireball. I do Mighty Modern on YouTube. I do coverage for Wizards of the Coast. And we have a lot to talk about this week. There was a big slew of announcements from Wizards. There is
not one of which was the Magic Fest schedule.
That's true. There was the Brawl.
We got told soon, TM.
Not one of which was the banned and restricted announcement that they kicked the can down the road.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
We've even got some Finance 101 we're going to break out for you this week. So let's start at the top. The banned and restricted announcement. There's a lot of talk around this because Wizards moved up the date from October 20, or from whenever it was. It was originally supposed to be in November. They moved it up to October 21st. And here's the important dates for this. They announced the change the day that Mythic Championship 5 lists were due, where by the time you're listening to this cast, I'll be there covering it in Long Beach, California. So they knew what players had submitted to that event. It's also true that due to, I don't know, quirk of the schedule or whatever, the next Mythic Championship is in like 3 weeks somehow. So we have Mythic Championship 5 this weekend, and then November 8th through 10th is Mythic Championship 6 in Richmond. And they moved the date up from November 18th to October 21st. So what that tells me, and this is pretty much everybody, right? Like they're giving themselves the opportunity to ban Cough Cough Field of the Dead in Standard so that Mythic Championship 6 is not overrun with the deck the way that it seems like perhaps Mythic Championship 5 could be. That is what is going around. So that has a lot of implications for Standard. I mean, Golos Field of the Dead is the best deck by far. And we've seen a lot of movement, like we've talked about over the past month or two as we hit New Standard. We're seeing all those cards from Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance jump up. I think Spawn of Mayhem has been one of the most recent ones to move. And the thing is, Golos Field of the Dead is the best deck. But if they do ban one of those cards, in all likelihood, Field of the Dead, right? If it turns out to be a problem and they ban it, then we're going to have another round of basically New Standard. And a lot of it will be the same, but it could change quite a bit. So it's not something we've seen in a very long time for a Standard format that people seem, we had bannings in Standard the last couple of years, but they generally came when people just were done with Standard anyways and weren't buying the cards. This is interesting because it might come at the very beginning of the season.
I mean, Copter happened. Right? Copter was like
a
month in and they were like, nope, not that. Nope.
Yeah, it's interesting because Copter got banned because...
Same with Felidar Guardian, right?
I think so, yeah.
That one got emergency nipped in the bud.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, Copter was in every deck, so it didn't really change too much about the format. Whereas this, basically, right now, the entire metagame has shifted to either be Golos or decks that are good against Golos. Or Oko seems to be the other pillar of the format. But after, if they do ban Field of the Dead, it's going to go from how do I beat these decks to basically how do I beat Oko decks, which could lead to cards that even if you wrote them off after rotation, they might get a new chance at life. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. That's for sure. The other products they announced, and they did all kinds of stuff, but the one people probably care about here is the new Unset. DJ did call a new product in this time period over the next few months, but I don't.
Well, no, this is not in the slot that I am shot calling.
You were shot calling the December slot?
Yeah, and this comes out February 29th.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. A little after that.
So it's not a set from the context of a booster pack set. The product is called Unsanctioned, and it is a package of several 30-card decks that include new silver border cards. Silver border cards being cards that you cannot use in constructed formats. They are wacky things like they have arm wrestling contests and just silly mechanics. And so this product will have reprints of old cards described as fan favorites. So we will probably see Cheaty Face. We will probably see some other variations on old cards, and then we will see new cards. But this is not a booster pack set, but it will have full art lands that we have not seen yet, but it was confirmed to have full art lands. And it is just a buy a box it's a battle box effectively, if you know what that is, where you just you buy it, you crack it open, you mix some decks together, and you play with your friends. So you can mix the blue deck and the white deck together. 30 cards plus 30 cards make 60 cards, and then you mix the green and the blue deck versus the red and the black deck, that kind of thing. So it is a pre-constructed battle box that won't really have any financial implications for existing cards. I mean, if there are certain cards that don't get reprinted, they might go up in price, but that's not exactly a reason to put a bunch of chips into existing silver border cards. So
do you think that we'll see something like we saw with Brawl, where with Brawl it's the commander stuff in it, but do you think that the lands will be such in this unproduct that, you know, they carry a value, like the sealed product actually has value? Do we think that people care about full art lands enough, or is that ship just sailed?
Yeah, the thing about full art lands is that they have beaten that horse to death to the point where if you find full art lands going through bulk and you're just digging through commons and uncommons, pure jank bulk, yes, you still pull them out, but they are nickels and dimes at this point. To the point where back in the good old days, during Scars of Mirrodin block or Theros block or whatever, every full art land was just $1, right? Because it was you had either Unhinged, Unglued, or Zendikar, and those were just the only full art lands you could get.
And they were all
the original Zendikar ones were the cheap ones, and those were $1 a piece. But I mean, after BFZ, after Modern Horizons, after after Amonkhet, there's just the market is filled to the brim and then some. So
one of my few regrets is GP Vegas 1. I didn't take my Palos into car lands, and it's because I didn't know that, you know, this was going to happen, obviously. But I get there and I saw somebody buying them for $1 each, just the full art basics from Zendikar, and man, I sure have a couple thousand Zendikar lands I wish I had sold for $1 each back then.
Yeah, and that guy's probably pretty glad you didn't punish him like that.
Yeah, I bet they are pretty happy.
There's also the completely side effect of that, like, technically at the moment basic lands are strategically worse than snow covered basic lands.
Yeah, that's probably going to be true forever.
Even then, just hedging your bets into regular basic lands is technically worse, but I mean, that doesn't mean that you should sell out of all your unhinged or unstable lands. I mean,
nobody wants my Ice Age snow covered lands.
What should we do with those? Because I have a 5-row full of full art lands from all of these sets, and
buy list them.
The unhinged and the unglued ones, I keep, because those are at least unique enough theoretically. Maybe one day I'll build a deck and put them in them or whatever. But yeah, I have so many Amonkhet lands and Hour lands and BFZ lands.
Do you have them in the store?
We have another 5-row at the store filled with them, where we sell them for $0.25 each or whatever, right? Like,
that's what you do with them, and then the rest you buy with.
No one buys them. It's so painful.
You paid nickels and then you ship them to Card Kingdom for dimes.
It's just so painful, man. The good old days of just grab every full art land. They're only going to go up.
And that kind of, I mean, the more that becomes
true, though.
When Zendikar came out, because this is when I got into
when Zendikar came out, yes, but like even past Zendikar, like 2012, it wasn't just grab every full art land because they go up.
No, but like there had been a big trend. You know, there had been a trend of them going up over that time, and basically up until BFZ, I guess, was the next time they did full art lands, or was it Amonkhet before that? No, it was BFZ. First.
BFC came before Amonkhet, old man.
Yeah, so like that was when it died, and it died so hard because then they just put their foot down on the gas.
Oh my god, it was so much fun to watch everyone invest in Oath of the Gatewatch Fat Packs. It was adorable.
It was very cute. People buying out Walmart to get those full art lands. Rip. But it's
it was the magic version of crypto.
It's one of the very few things in Magic that you actually got punished for holding on to for a long time, because even with sealed product back in the day, the ideology used to be that you just take your sealed boxes and you put them up because they're going to be worth more in the long run. And It's, very rarely are we sad that we lose cards in the closet for 5 years.
I bought all these Tarmogoyfs in 2013, guys. How'd I do?
Well, that's why I stay away from basics. People ask me, well, which 4 basics or whatever should I invest in? I'm like, stay away from basics. They're the easiest thing for them to make obsolete.
And they also just print so many. Like, there's the GP promos, there's the special, there's the Ravnica promo. There's just so many basic lands, and
people have a choice too. Imagine if there were 50 different printings of Tarmogoyf with all had different arts, and you're like, which one should I buy? Yeah. Well, they're printing 20 more Tarmogoyfs next year that have 20 different arts, so none of them.
Yeah, one of the employees at my store who helps list cards for us pointed out, I think it's the rat thing from Eldraine, I don't remember what it's called, that makes rats.
Piper of the Swarm.
Has something like, the card has been out for 2 weeks. It has 6 or 7 printings or something at this point. Once you throw in, that's what he told me at the store night. I'm inclined to believe him because there's just so many versions of cards. It's insane.
Piper of the Swarm has 5.
5 printings.
Entirely too many. It has the pre-release promo date stamp. It has the stupid promo pack one that has like the little planeswalker symbol in the bottom right of the art. It has the regular one you can get out of booster packs, and then it has the extended art one you can get out of collector packs. And then it has the bundle one that you can get out of what used to be called Fat Packs, but are now called bundles.
And the way, at least, that TCG...
Wait, there's Fat Pack exclusive art?
Yes.
Yeah. This is like, how ridiculous
that was true,
is this?
That was true in Corset too, I think.
It's just dumb. It's so hard to. It's just very silly at this point. It feels like we've jumped the shark.
Program all that different crap.
Well, and that's the thing is
5 different product codes for each different printing.
Right, because
and then I get 5 times as many people going, "Oh, I wanted the Ancient Mew version, but you sent me the Dragon Ball Z Special Edition cereal box version."
Well, that's what we use, the TCG Player app, to scan cards at our store when we sell them. That way, we always just sell at market price. And it's so hard because there's so many versions. And in fact, in the app, they even have, there's the Corset 2020 promo pack version of cards. Then there's a Throne of Eldraine promo pack version of cards. And they're in the system as 2 different products. I think that they look the same.
Can't even tell the difference between white bordered and black bordered Tron. I don't trust it to scan something with 5 different arts.
It's just silly. I mean, I don't even know that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just crazy. All right, let's move on to our favorite game where there are not a billion different versions of cards. There's usually just one, and it's one worth picking. Breaking Bulk.
Breaking Bulk time. Breaking Bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking Bulk. The end.
You just steamroll the Patreon pitch every week. You leave me no fucking opening whatsoever. You just no lube. Just go right into the fucking podcast right out of the gate. Like, I get it. We've been talking for an hour, but like, I don't know. Just like, let us settle in. There was shit I wanted to say at the beginning. You're just like, nope, we're doing a segment. Like, you gotta calm down, man. I realize that you're in charge of the bus. We're like the bus driver from Speed. We're like, fuck it. Can't stop, won't stop. This bus goes below 60 miles an hour and we get this done in a tight 43 minutes. It'll explode. And I think your butthole. Like, you're planning the shit you need to take desperately later right now. And I think that's inconsiderate. That's all I'm saying.
Corbin's being considerate of my bedtime, though, and I appreciate that.
I was being considerate of DJ's bedtime. That was a quality rant, though, Jason. I got to give that to you.
Yeah. That rant was brought to you by Sober October. Here I'm drinking La Croix out of this handsome Brainstorm Brewery drinking glass.
I found out
because I may or may not have a drinking problem. That's not true. In solidarity with the comedy community, we observe Sober October because as comedians, we get paid in liquor, and liquor's everywhere, and it's a social lubricant, and we all hang out and drink together, and it's good to just slow down every once in a while. So whether you think you have a problem or not, maybe take the month of October to just reevaluate and see how easy or difficult it is to try cessation for 1 month. It's gone okay for me. It hasn't been really that difficult, which is good, because I was worried that it might be. And I've lost some weight and I feel like I have a little bit more energy. So I'll be back to my alcoholic self in November. I always drink one really expensive beer on this podcast. That's something I like, and I like having these wonderful Brainstorm Brewery drinking glasses that people that go to patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery and give us $20 a month or more will have access to. And we are doing special new glasses with the new Brainstorm Brewery logo next year. So that's something to look forward to also. But I guess what I want to say is it's okay not to drink sometimes. And when you do, drink responsibly. And Uber or Lyft, which one's the one we're allowed to like?
Lyft is the one that didn't steal my money yet.
Okay, Lyft. Okay, because they're like, Uber is bad. They don't pay their. I'm like, yeah,
no,
but
no,
DUIs
no, it's
are
not
worse.
about that. It's the Jason. You were there. They stole.
No,
our...
but I'm talking like the people that aren't us, the one that they care about.
Not the people who got
like I
stolen
realized
from
that
Uber
Uber
Eats.
shafted us for the tune.
No,
of
no, no.
$120.
Uber stole our patrons' money. That's the worst part. They
Oh.
stole your money.
Yeah,
Listeners.
The people went to patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery and gave us as little as $1 a month, which is 20 or 25 cents an episode. That went directly into the pocket of someone who stole our food because they refunded our order but would not refund the tip DJ gave her.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so
That's what...
I don't know if I gave this side rant in the post-indie episode, but for those who did not listen to that episode, Uber Eats makes you tip the driver prior to them providing their good and or service, which seems a little unreasonable. And so when I submitted my standard tip of $13.50 for like a $130 order, or no, it was a $110 order, but whatever. They gave that tip directly to the driver from my account, and then I waited an hour for my food and it didn't show up. And so they said, "Oh, we can't refund your tip because it's been over an hour since your order." And that seemed a little counterintuitive.
We got hosed. And then we went to Buffalo Wild Wings.
We didn't get hosed. They got hosed. The listeners got hosed. It was their money.
Yep.
I don't know that we should tell them that we were spending their money on food.
We need to eat.
That's...
We spent your money on the party.
And physical sustenance to be at that party, which Corbin seems to be embarrassed by. Don't tell them I had the B-dubs, guys.
Yeah, we spent your money on Buffalo Wild Wings. Did you expect anything else? Like,
It's just
look,
good after
when you go to
hours.
patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery and give us $1 a month, which is 20 or 25 cents an episode, you have to know that some of it is going to go to B-dubs for Corbin.
But not anymore, right? Because during the month of Sober October, Corbin is planning on sobering up from Buffalo Wild Wings. You want to explain that one, bud?
Yeah, so for anybody who goes to the Patreon, and you know what? We've had some people do it already. We're counting in the month of October, everyone who goes up a level or becomes a patron for the first time to $1, which gets you access to the Discord and all of hanging out with us and talking hot finance tips and all that great stuff. For every $1, I'm going to not eat Buffalo Wild Wings for 2 days. So I know some of you out there hate me. We have more patrons. We're at 475 as of this recording. If we get to 500, you can embarrass me further, because at 500, I will be playing Grand Prix Oklahoma City in December in a Merfolk cosplay, which I will then wear when I jump into a freezing cold body of water and try to swim like a merfolk in December. Thanks to all of you. So if you wanted to go to Brainstorm Brewery, www.com. If you wanted to go to
www.computers.aol.net.
If you wanted to go to patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery, hey, I'm playing hurt here, man. I'm sick.
Alexa,
all right?
Google search internet.
I like, if you're gonna say www, just say go to https://www.
Patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery. Please become a patron of the podcast.
Siri, use Yahoo to find my Gmail and open up.
That's not funny. My wife opens Google instead of opening a new tab, and she types Gmail into Google.
All I'm saying is, if you want to become a patron of the podcast, now is a great time to do it. We're going to make it rain on patrons at the end of the year with perks.
Like
And
we
hey,
did
if we can
last
get to
year.
500, just 25 more people, and we are talking to you, I will embarrass myself even further while not eating Buffalo Wild Wings. So we appreciate
And-
everyone's help.
And the service we provide in exchange for said $1 a month is I have a 5th Dawn uncommon artifact with no reprints, I think. I'll double check on the no reprints part, but 5th Dawn uncommon artifact, it's 4 mana.
Sunstrike, Sheer Strike Trident?
No. To confirm no reprints to this card that I'm referring to.
Rock, clay, and ironworks.
No.
Yeah.
The lightning tower thing?
No.
Lightning staff?
Nope.
Trying to remember.
Is it a creature or a non-creature
It
artifact?
is a non-creature artifact, 4 mana, uncommon. It has...
that's like 25 cards.
You were
in that
thinking
set.
of Voyager staff, Jason? Is that what you were thinking of?
No,
That's
but
a card,
yes.
right?
It
Voyager
involves
staff
charge-
was in like Ravnica.
It involves
Yeah,
charge
right.
counters.
Yeah, doesn't that lightning thing? Lightning.
Maybe, but that's not the card I'm talking about.
Lightning coils. That was a rare for Meriden.
All right,
Jeez, this is hard.
I'll give you the artist's name is
Oh.
Doesn't matter.
Boy,
Itoku, which is an artist I've never heard before in Magic. The artwork is a big old diamond with like 5 eggs on it. On
Oh.
pedestals.
I can picture the art now, but I still don't know what the card is. Geoprismatic egg.
You're getting warmer, but I mean I will end the suffering. It is
No,
Gemstone Array.
Gemstone Array.
Oh, okay.
I
Yep.
had it.
This
I did
is
not
a
actually know the art of that card, but I do know that card.
4 mana artifact, 2 mana, put a charge counter on it, and then you can remove a charge counter at any time to add a mana of any color. The eggs are not really in Wooburg order.
Yeah,
It
which
goes
is
green.
tilting.
It goes green, white, blue, black, red from left to right. So that's a tilter if you ever play this card.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I mean, it's a weird little EDH mana rock that lets you put mana into different various colors. Like it's maybe a budget version of some various like multicolor mana rocks. I mean, I don't even know why you'd really run this because there's a whole lot of budget multicolor mana rocks out there for your 5-color Joda and Ramos decks. But I mean, if you happen to find 5th Dawn bulk, this thing's a nice little George Washington dollar bill.
It's a way to convert infinite colorless mana to infinite colored mana. I imagine that's where it comes into play.
That is probably one of its most unique uses.
Yeah.
It is in 900 decks on EDH Rec.
I assume the most popular ones are Rainbow.
Kaidel and Vile Smasher, Kaidel and Thrasios, Kaidel and Silas Wren.
Yep.
Oh, so it's like a competitive
Kaidel and Crom.
Well, it takes your colorless Kaidel mana
Yeah.
and turns it into colored mana. Yeah.
Exactly.
That makes sense. So you can play more wheels.
Yep, and
Yep.
you get a lot of colorless mana in Kaidel decks. So, Memnarch decks too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Send triplets. So yeah, this is people who are stealing your opponent's cards and making mana that your lands can't make, but to activate their stuff that you stole, like Memnarch, Send triplets, Experiment Kraj. Yeah, like okay,
Marisil.
this gets a non-zero amount of play in EDH. 1,000 decks isn't a ton, but it's
It has its use,
it's a
right? It
thing.
has a
Yeah,
unique
look
use
at
there.
It also has basically no copies in existence. Like I'm probably holding one of the
Yeah.
last ones that,
Yeah,
that
probably.
are out there.
Somebody is selling a blue hurricane on the Misprints group on Facebook right now. It's probably about as rare as that. Did you guys see that? Yeah, $10,000 they're asking for a blue hurricane. For those who don't know, this is a cool piece of Magic trivia. In Summer Magic, which was this set that wasn't supposed to be released, blah, 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 there's some number of them leaked out in the 90s. I think the giveaway is that there's a copyright date on them, but they look like revised cards.
They look like revised templating,
Yeah.
4th edition coloring, and
Yeah.
it says 1994 at the bottom.
Right. It's if you have a revised card with a copyright on it, you're probably looking at 4th edition. But there, if it doesn't have anything else, it could be Summer Magic. But so Blue Hurricane, of course is a green card. It's a green X card. But in this one set, they were printed with a blue border, as if it were a blue card. So it's basically the holy grail of misprints. One of the, outside of test cards or, other really crazy collectible stuff like that. It's one of the most sought after actual misprinted cards. And yeah, so somebody was asking 10K for it on the misprints group. And I doubt they'll get 10K, but they're probably going to get close. It's pretty crazy.
I mean, I see a lot of test prints routinely go for way more than that. So as much as everyone's like, Blue Hurricane's the rarest, Not quite, but
Well, yeah,
it's
test prints
super
are
cool.
Test prints are cooler.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, Blue Hurricane's super cool. That's something
Yeah.
I'd like to own, but I'd
you got 10K lying around that could be yours.
I do, but I'm not gonna spend it on that. because,
You're gonna be
I'm
responsible?
accountable to 3 other people now.
Yeah. All right, I've got I assume this is an easy one for you guys, but we'll see. Saviors of Kamigawa, blue common card.
Is it
Ideas Unbound.
no, is it the creature that makes your hand size go up by 2?
It is neither of
Freed from-
those.
Freed from the real.
It is freed from the real.
What's even Freed from the Rails champions?
Nope.
Saviors, bro.
Really?
It's a little lampposty thing, light, whatever it is. It's a lantern. Yeah. So freed from the real. It was reprinted, and this is where you're likely to find this in Masters 25 as an uncommon, and it's a 3-mana enchantment. You pay a blue to tap a creature, play to tap enchanted creature, pay a blue to untap it, and it's a combo for making infinite mana with the Birds of Paradise with Leyline of Abundance in Modern. So I don't know if that deck is good. I haven't really seen it pop up, anything, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, is that why I sold out?
That is likely why you sold out, yeah. It's been worth money for a little bit, but...
Well, because of stuff like all kind of stuff, like anything that taps in Commander.
I am
like,
considering building a Rix
yeah.
with these as my next commander, and it kind of makes
Yeah.
a billion green mana with
Yeah,
that.
there you go. So, but you know, it got a boost off of the ley line a little bit, moved it up. But yeah, the card's $1. I mean, it's actually $1.20 market, so it's a very solid one to pull out of bulk if you got any Masters 25 lying around.
That's a good pull. I have a card that's worth more in TCG Player than it is on Card Kingdom, which has been true of all 3 of our picks of the week this week.
Okay.
This is from Return to Ravnica. It is white.
Ethereal armor.
Yeah, Ethereal Armor is getting used because people are playing All That Glitters and stuff like that. Sort of like All That Glitters is just very good in the Alela deck because you have a ton of fairy tokens, so you just like strap All That Glitters and Ethereal Armor and like
Boggles.
some other. Yeah. I mean, this is a Pauper Boggles card too. So.
Well,
No,
modern
there's
Boggles.
there are no Pauper decks except for Jeskai.
Okay.
For now, at
All
least.
Pauper decks are dead in the face of Arkham's Astrolabe and Skred and
until they
I mean,
ban
Multi-Drifter.
Astrolabe anyway.
They really should ban it.
They-
I mean,
they
Pauper's kind of in just like a really horrible spot right now, even without Astrolabe, just because like just the past sets have just like ruined that format. I feel
Ephemerate, like
Ephemerate was a problem. Astrolabe's a problem. Yeah.
even just like people are just now realizing just the sheer power level of blue in that format. I feel like even without those
blue
those
is
free
half
spells
the
that-
ban list or something like 2/3 of the
Yeah, I
ban
mean,
list.
like
and it
even
doesn't
without all
matter.
those free spells, it's sort of like in League how Kale and Cassidon went like all of season 1 through 3
No
while
one knows
having
what
like
that means.
absurd AP ratios, and then in season 3 they cut Kale's AP ratio in half, and like it did barely change her win rate at all.
Didn't matter.
It's kind of like that in Pauper, where people just went so long without realizing just the absurdity of Blue's power level in the format.
Yeah.
And I think Pauper is in just a really bad, like, I think the format just might need like reworking from a
Well, Pauper has gotten a lot of
a deep
attention over
level.
the past year. Pauper was kind of a thing that
yeah.
for a long time just existed on Magic Online, and people played it, and people played their Legacy Light decks, and occasionally they get new cards. But
Yeah.
combined with you want to talk about it, it might have something to do with the fact they decided to sort of undo the New World Order design paradigm they had, where you had to keep everything simple, and they went to New World Order, which is where we can push to an extent. And you've had a lot of cards, plus they've just upped the power level. A lot of cards have impacted Pauper, but it's also just gotten a lot more competitive attention. They started doing Pauper events at GPs. All of that sort of stuff happened. And yeah, shocker, people, like, as the format got more competitive, it both got more expensive. We talked about that. But then it also just got better. People just figured out the decks.
more hands and more eyes on the format.
Yeah.
Streamlined.
And
everything.
Ephemerate and Astrolabe were just terrible for the format. It's the interaction
because
with,
they weren't even thinking about Pauper when they designed that set.
the interaction with Mold Drifter and
Yeah.
Ephemerate is very stupid. Arkham's Astrolabe and Core Skyfisher is just dumb. Like the Ghostly Flicker decks are the other, blue sort of linchpin of the format. I don't know if I agree with DJ that's dead. I think you could ban Astrolabe and see what happens at that point, because there are green stompy decks and black decks you can play. Like you can play Boggles, you can play Burn. There are other things you can do. You can play Elves, but until Astrolabe gets banned, that format is in a bad spot. But yeah, Ethereal Armor, all the glitters has also gone into modern Boggles, along with Ethereal Armor, which already existed. So it's, that's another reason for people to be picking up that card. So yeah, Ethereal Armor is a pretty good one.
Yep, I think Alel is the number one commander this week on EDH Rec. Like, all those Brawl Precon commanders are like in the top 4 spots. It's really dumb. Yeah, I get it. They're going to sell a lot of Brawl decks, mostly to me.
Well, on the note of Brawl, we've all heard that there's another run coming in November, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But no one actually has any more specifics than that, right? We've all just kind of heard there's going to be another run, but we don't have a date from a distributors, or we don't know numbers or anything like that, right?
Right.
So,
regardless of that, that doesn't change the tangible advice of sell the extra stuff that you have in those decks now.
Right, of course. Yep. But it's going to be interesting to see, because this could go one of two ways. They could just open the floodgates on it, make it print to demand, and all the cards, they push Arcane Signet down to 5. I don't even know what the card's worth, but they push it down to be worth very little. I think we're confident it would all go up.
It's a little under 9 on TCG Player.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So they might push that card down to 5. I think we all think it would go up from wherever it settles until it gets reprinted again. But they could also, it could be another print run that was the same size, and we only got 32 displays, or 32 boxes, 3 displays of it, I think. 2 displays, I don't remember. We got under 40 total Brawl products to sell at my store, and we had the most of anybody in the area. Everyone else only got like 24. So if it's as small as that, it might not do much at all. So for everyone out there still trying to hunt these down, November is a long time away still, right? It's the middle of October. If it's a month from now before another run even hits, I think we all obviously agree you should sell the stuff while you can, but man, it might be a while before that whole thing sort of works itself out.
Yep. This that's kind of a problem. I caused a fist fight at my LGS by trying to splice a Glacial Ray into Arcane Signet when I played it.
Nice.
Someone flipped a table, so...
yeah. You spliced onto Arcane, did you?
It's not Arcane, and you
Weird.
can just tap it without paying a mana, so it's not a Signet either, so...
You're right. It is both neither of the things in the title.
What's the deal with Arcane Signet?
The best part of it is that everything you just said is completely accurate, but that card's never going anywhere. It's always going to be, they're going to print it every year in Commander decks from now until eternity, and it's always going to be called Arcane Signet.
Yup.
Or they'll print a functional reprint to fix the name, and then it'll be even worse.
Yep.
Sell your Felwar stones now.
Yeah.
I got a collection with 25 black bordered ones, and I'm just like, oh no, already.
I mean, on that note, we all sort of had our own little mini rants here, but we talked about it at the open of the cast, and probably it's certainly they've given themselves the out to ban something in standard, like the Field of the Dead, or Golos or whatever. People also complain about Oko. We just listed off. We had a 10 seconds of like how many broken cards that have been printed in the 2019 that should not have been printed, that we just questioned the design principles of, and we really filled up 10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it's also really weird how like 1 or 2 years ago, if you ask somebody to name the top 5 planeswalkers ever, it's like a relatively healthy discussion of like Jace, Lily of the Veil, Elspeth, like etc, etc. Karn Liberated is in the conversation, maybe.
Yeah.
Liliana Last Hope. But like, if you ask that question now, it's like Renin 6, Teferi, Narset, Karn, War of the Spark Karn.
Great creator.
And then maybe Jace.
Mm-hmm.
Like 4 out of 5 of those have been printed in 2019.
And Yeah, it was just ridiculous how many Narset, Oko. Like Oko is so stupid. And this is not, look, we're a Magic Finance podcast.
And it's not just Planeswalkers too. It's like just cards.
They just turned it all up to 11, man. This is a finance podcast. It's not our job to, none of us are design experts here. We're not anything, but all of this has a financial impact because it's just it's causing such an upheaval in every format. It's not a trickle of cards into Legacy or Modern. It is sets that are completely redefining formats. Pauper got completely changed by Modern Horizons. Modern got completely changed by Modern Horizons.
It's Commander Masters, bro. I'm not buying any of this.
Legacy got completely changed by Modern Horizons. And this is after all of those, well, not Pauper, but after Modern and Legacy got completely changed by War of the Spark. I mean, and then they printed Oko. Like, it's just crazy. I mean, they're going to ban Field of the Dead, and then we all have to go back to hating Oko for 21 more months. Like, that card is absurd.
I'm really surprised that card doesn't have a -2 for its transformability.
Oh, you're surprised that it's not templated the best? I just, I don't know. I'm not a design expert, but like,
it's intentional. This was I've been on this rant since M20, if not War of the Spark. Like, these represent intentional decisions by WotC to push the power level.
Yeah.
And I don't really
but
it
makes standard not that fun, and it makes arena really not that fun. So like,
I'm sympathetic to the argument that arena, just like Magic Online before it, only to an even greater extent now, people find the best deck faster, right? 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, but even 5 years ago, right? People figuring out the optimized build of Golos Field wouldn't have happened a week into the format.
Yeah, remember you could only play 4 matches of Magic a week against people that weren't your play group, and now you can play 10 matches a night.
I just don't know. It just has such a financial impact because so much of what we do is looking at past examples of cards. And so much of the advice we give takes into account a long-term thing, like such and such will always be good, or, this will always be this. And go look at modern decks from a year ago and look at how many of the cards in them are unplayable now. It's just nuts. Something like Voice of Resurgence is a good example. To a lesser extent, Kitchen Finks. Like, these are cards that used to be birds. I mean, heck, you can barely play a Birds of Paradise deck in Modern even anymore.
So what you're saying is green.
I guess so, right? I mean, Knight of the Reliquary is a good example. A card used to be about a powerhouse in Legacy. It's just, it just changes things on a financial level. Like, so much of the advice we give, how are we supposed to have deep insights if the deep insight is the card they print 6 months from now is going to make this card we told you to buy 6 months ago obsolete? Like, it's hard. I mean, obviously the answer is shift to Commander, but then they do crap like print Arcane Signet.
Yep, they will take a dump right on Commander's lap just to try to make Brawl a thing, and they don't really care what happens because Commander players are going to buy the Brawl decks because they have to, and Brawl players may or may not exist.
I don't want to become Yu-Gi-Oh, guys. where they print cards and they're broken and they completely obsolete cards from 6 months prior. And the thing is, with every Teferi, with every broken 3-mana Planeswalker they print, you can't really take it back. Like, those cards now exist. Wrenn and 6 is now a thing that exists forever, right?
Yep.
They can't just start banning design mistakes unless they actually break formats. They make formats worse. We just kind of have to deal with it. And I'm not against power creep in general. Power creep has to exist, but it's making a lot of things more complicated than they have been for a long time. And it gets to what I'm getting at is it strikes at the heart of consumer confidence in the game and the secondary market.
Yep.
And people don't want to pay whatever dollars for whatever card if they legitimately have to consider if that card is going to be completely unplayable when they print next year's Modern Horizon, And the power creep of the past 6 months honestly feels like that.
Yeah. Modern Horizons was just real bad. just for Magic.
So was War of the Spark.
Yeah.
You know? And then there are things that hold true. Like, we don't want to print fetch lands. We don't want to print free spells. And they do Fabled Passage and Once Upon a Time.
Yep, in the same set. Yeah.
Like, I just don't know. We just don't know what's going on there anymore. And it makes it really hard to plan.
There's so many gimmicks going on that any one of those gimmicks would have sold the set. But they have 4 of them.
Yeah, and also there's 6 different versions of cards. So I can't even tell you what the price of this card's going to do. Because I have to talk about the other 5 versions of the card.
Yep. Yeah, there's too much going on. They really Hasbro'd up this set for real. So it's going to be interesting to see what the next set in this block does. If they're going to push as many gimmicks or they're just going to let...
Well, you mean this year, right?
Thrown up...
No, I mean, there's no blocks anymore, right? So...
Yeah.
The next set is Theros, right?
Oh, is that how it's going to work?
Yes. The winter set is Theros, and then the next one after that is
Ikoria.
Whatever Ikora.
It's Ikoria. It's Ikoria.
And then the one after that is the core set, and then after that it is Return to Zendikar.
Ugh, that's miserable.
Well, it could be. Like,
it's my job to keep up with this, and even I can't. It's too much crap.
Well, I mean, I understand the block model and all of those things going into it. I'm fine with that, but it's just, I don't know. I think that these things, the whole point of having, like, on a really basic market level, the whole point of having planes in Magic is so that something sells your set that isn't just the power level of the cards in it. You know, if every set was a core set, all we would care about are what the individual cards do. But everything about Theros is we have an expectation of what a Theros set is. And the idea is that you can design cool Theros cards that do Theros things that people enjoy, and people will buy that product because they like that thing and that theme. And it's not just about the stats on the Magic card. And you kind of undermine that by then just making all the cards broken. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes from here. What we do know about Wizards is that they listen to feedback like this. And, we didn't even touch on Vintage, which, by the way, is completely unplayable right now. Literally unplayable. And Wizards knows it. And that's why in their last banning announcement, they said, we're banning these things or restricting these things. And this is a first step. Please give us more feedback. It's just like as open as they can possibly say, we know we screwed up this format. So I hope that they hear all of this. And I think they got more bold because they have play design sort of keeping things from being broken, is the idea. Maybe if they have to ban Field of the Dead, they'll rethink that a little bit. But I would just like just to see, I'm not saying we need a bunch of underpowered sets like Ixalan or whatever. I'm hoping this is just an overreaction to the complaints against Ixalan being low powered or whatnot. But, it is, keeping in mind what I'm saying here, I just think that it's easy to be cynical of the reasons for this stuff. So I hope that we see it trend in the other direction. All right, let's move on. Let's go back. We talked about some pretty complicated stuff there. Let's talk simple. We mentioned on the podcast last week, we talked about turning cards upside down to set sort them or to rarity sort them. And a couple of people tweeted at us and said, oh my gosh, mind actually blown, Galaxy Brain Play or whatever, right? So we're going to bring it back a little bit this week. We're going to talk Finance 101. And this week, we're going to talk about sorting. Basically how you should sort your cards. I've ranted a little, so DJ, you said you had something queued up here.
Yeah. So unless you consistently at a regular interval are browsing through your collection for very specific things, in general, not even very specific things, like more general things for commander decks and things like that, I will tell you right now that you probably shouldn't have a trade binder.
Oh man.
Unless you are actively using it every weekend. Even
that's
then,
not my trade binder. It's my book full of stuff I hand to a dealer and say, no, I'm keeping that. That's not for. I'm not selling that.
Whew. Okay. I'm not mad. I'm not mad.
Why would you be mad?
Not mad.
That's definitely never happened to DJ.
But number one, most of you would be better off using a trade box, and that just being like a small BCW box full of X 100 to 200 cards of cards you're willing to trade. As long as you keep your eyes on it, it is more efficient than a trade binder when offering somebody cards to look through. It is more efficient to keep organized. It is just more efficient. That's the only real way I could say it. And if you're planning on sorting your collection and making your collection easier to list on TCG Player, or making your collection more efficient to buy list, or making your life less of a headache just by knowing where all of your cards are and knowing how easily accessible they are, I 100% recommend sorting all of your cards by set and by alphabetically within set. And I recommend purging all cards from bulk to non-bulk. So just take all of your non-bulk, whether it is common, uncommon picks, whether it is rares, whether it is mythics, foils, non-foils, promos, all that garbage, and just set sort it and alphabetize it. And I recommend getting a few tools to help you with that. Number one, use BCW 5-row boxes. Just the big old, JJ can just slap a picture on the screen, I guess, if you're watching YouTube, just like a BCW 4 or 5-row box.
If you're not watching YouTube, you should consider it.
Yeah, it adds graphics like BAM and POW, and JJ adds crazy little comic book section, like word boxes when we say crazy shenanigans. It's pretty cool.
We tell him edit it, and then he just edits it.
And I recommend getting set dividers. You can see the ones that I have behind me on screen here. Get some of these to set sort your cards, because then you'll just be able to flip through to the appropriate set, pull out the card you need for your commander deck, and then go about your day without having to dig through multiple trade binders or multiple boxes worth of Magic cards. The third little item I recommend buying are these foam square rectangle items. I got these from a collection many moons ago, many long years ago, but they are just basically foam rectangles that are roughly the size of the rows in a 4-row box. And the utility of these is that you can put these in a 1-row, and then it will hold the cards in place regardless of how many cards you have in a 1-row. So if you have an 800 count box and you only want to fit 300 cards in it, all those cards are going to move around. But not if you have a little foam in here like this. This is a bit of an exaggerated demonstration, considering this box is almost full already, but you can see the utility if you're watching on YouTube, how if this box only had a significant less number of cards in it, significantly fewer, then this foam will keep those cards from falling over or knocking each other around, stuff like that. So that allows you to have a 4-row box full of Magic cards, and using those 4 rows for individual purposes. So you can have maybe your last row is only like Scars of Mirrodin to Zendikar or something like that, and then you just put a little foam in the back of there. You can use the multiple foams. You can see behind me on the YouTube channel, I have this wonderfully organized system of set, sorted, and alphabetized Magic cards, and those foams are very, very helpful. It is one of those things that you do not think is useful until you own them, and then you're like, wow, these are really useful. So I recommend finding those on Amazon or something like that. I'm sure you can you can probably just like break into a school bus garage and like rip a couple seats off and then cut out the foam out of those. That might work.
That's
Set, sort, and alphabetize your cards. It makes it more efficient, especially when... Okay, so part 2 of this, right when Corbin was going to start talking again. If you are planning on selling on TCG Player, Amazon, or eBay, or any sort of large selling platform like that, and you start to get a larger number of orders, it will be much more efficient for you to be able to download a pull sheet via a CSV/spreadsheet, and then that pull sheet will be set, sorted, and alphabetized within set for you. Because that's just the way that TCG Player downloads pull sheets. You probably won't be able to do that for eBay specifically. But I saw on TCG Player, so it has been much more useful for me to have my inventory set, sorted, and alphabetized, so that when I go to TCG Player, before I was on Direct, I would pull my orders for the day, and then everything's set, sorted, and alphabetized, and then you pull all those cards, and then you print all your packing slips, and then you just have to go through each order individually and pull out all your cards that were pulled for the day for your orders for the day, and they're already set, sorted, and alphabetized for you because you pulled them all in one specific order.
That is a very interesting advice, I think, in general. Because here's the thing, everything you just said is completely true, but I don't know if that's how the majority of Magic players interact with their cards. You know, like, what do you think the percentage of people is who, well, one, I hate when people bring me cards in boxes because I know they're going to be dinged up. If you're going to use the box, you should sleeve your cards. And
that's not necessarily. I mean, if you have foams in your boxes, then they won't bounce around in the box, and then you'll be fine.
I hear you. Cards that come in boxes are always beat up. Maybe it's just a sense. Maybe it's more like a correlation than a causation thing, because the people who didn't care to get a trade binder didn't take as good of care of their cards. But cards that come to me in boxes are always beat up.
Because they get handled more. Because they slide against each other every time.
That's what I'm saying.
Take them out and put them away. But there's dangers to the binder too. There's something called binder bite, like where the rings touch it. So try not to use
also
a binder with rings.
Yeah, and I mean putting cards unsleeved into certain binders has like the material like wear off onto the card too.
Yeah, you can mess it. Yeah, you can mess everything up in a lot of ways. I think the answer here is always sleeve your cards. Just put them.
I mean,
put a sleeve on them.
I think the average Magic player interacts with their cards in that they want to know where all their cards are.
Yeah.
And like even if you are just like a standard or modern player, you can still set, sort, then alphabetize within set for cards you expect to realistically use or interact with.
Yep.
Like you can put away all the extra giant growths and grizzly bears into the bulk pile, and then if you're cracking War of the Spark boxes, you say, oh, I might build a red black sacrifice deck. I can put this Mayhem Devil in my box of playables, as most people have. But just set, sorting, and alphabetizing within set is still, I would argue, the most efficient way to be able to access your cards.
It definitely is 100%.
There,
if you want to be able to find out where, like, to know if you have something or find out if you have it, that's 100% the best way to do it.
Yes. And it is the most efficient way to transition those cards from your using pile or whatever, or your potential playables or your current deck building materials or whatever, and then transition that into a selling pile. So I mean, if you have that 4 or 5 row or 2 row or however many cards you have of playables that you might use, and then you want to go through it and do a purge of, okay, it's standards rotating now, or there are all these cards I don't think I'm going to use. You can just sift through that starting at 10th edition or starting at Alliances or Alara Reborn or whatever your starts with, and then sift through and just pull every card you know you're not going to use anymore. And then as long as you keep that in the same order, now you have a sellable inventory that is also set, sorted, and alphabetized that you can throw in TCG Player. And then you splice that inventory apart and you have your playables that you're going to keep, and then you have your sellable inventory that you need to list.
That's just not how people do it.
But I know it's not how people do it, but that's why we're doing this segment.
Yeah, no, I think that's
Finance 101, where we teach you how to do some shit that I don't even do and nobody does, and you're not going to do. You did it. That's not true. I set, sort, and alphabetize everything.
I do too for stuff I'm keeping. Man, the first thing I tell new players to do is get a trade binder, though, because they just need somewhere to put their rares so that they will not have them sorted in with their junk. And when people are new, they're not going to know what's worth and what's playable and what's bulk, and they don't have their eye on all the prices. And they just end up with all the cards in one big box. And then I know that Shockland is going to be just as destroyed as the common trash card next to it when they pull it out years later or whatever.
I mean, that's not teaching them to use bind. That's like just teaching them to use sleeves.
Yeah.
That's like teaching them to take care of their cards.
Yeah, but it's so hard.
You can teach them to use sleeves and still teach them to not use an inefficient binder.
It's so hard for people. If people want to trade stuff in, though, and they don't know what they have, I don't want to look through their junk. I want their rare binder.
Just tell them to sleeve all their rares and put them in a BCW
Yeah,
box.
I think that's probably the difference here is however you keep them. Choosing to sort your things is important. Whether, and using boxes like that is definitely going to be the optimal way to be efficient about it.
Because I've met a lot of players who keep their collections in binders and they alphabetize their binders, which is a just a blowing my mind thing.
It's
of
pretty
like
bad
watching,
every time you get a new one, right? And you have
yeah,
to
every
move
time they have to
everything.
they're like, oh, a new angel came out. I gotta take all my angels out of my binder,
Yeah.
put them all back in. And by the time they get done, then there's another angel out because
Man, but
they
I think
came out
Magic
with
players, I think a lot of Magic players like that, man. That's
What,
part of
wasting
how.
their time?
That's part. Is certainly the person who cares about a new angel. That's part of how they interact with their collection. You're treating it as inventory. You know, that's they don't treat it as that. A lot of people like to look through their binder and look at their cards. Like, I think everything you're saying from an efficiency standpoint is correct. I just don't know if that's how. Like, I just don't know that the top concern for most people is how.
I don't have a closet shrine for my Gonti deck that I pray to every night. Like
I don't think the top concern for most people is how do I make this as efficient as possible to sell on TCG Player. I think they like to touch with their cards and look at their cards.
But you can still make it efficient to like find your garbage for your
Yeah.
decks that you want to build. Like you can
Yeah.
make it so like, oh, I need to find that extra Felwar stone I have. Oh, I know it's in C16. I know it's in the dark. I know it's in
No,
like,
look, yeah, that's how they should. That's how people should do it. I don't know if it quite follows that you want to destroy the rare binder, trade binder to do it, because I think Magic players enjoy that. They enjoy having their binder taken out at a store and looking at each other's good cards and comparing and swapping stories about this card and when I opened this card, and that's just a lot more difficult. It takes away some of the social experience if it's hidden away in a box. And I understand that that does not make any sense. Certainly from that's not how we handle them, right? At my store, we keep our cards set, sorted, and alphabetized because we're selling them because they're inventory to us. I just think that maybe this is why a lot of people don't do these things. But if you are somebody who wants to be efficient and to know where your cards are when you want to build your next commander deck or whatever, everything that DJ said is absolutely the way you should do it.
this is like the equivalent of the pro player who has somebody come up to them and say, how's my limited deck? Would you change anything? And nobody ever wants to answer that question. Because they don't want the answer of would you change anything. They want the answer of like, what you're doing is great, change nothing, you're a great person.
Yeah, you're right. People hate that. People come to me it was so good. A couple of weeks ago, somebody at the store, they basically, when we drafted the store, it's somewhat new players, and they all want me to give them advice on their deck afterwards. And
yeah,
I do.
I mean, Jason, I'm sure Jason gets that all the time.
Yeah, with Commander, right? And then late at the end of the night, someone's like, "Oh, I lost because I got screwed or whatever," and I'm like, "Oh, did you make any of those changes I suggested?" And they're like, "No, I liked what I was doing." I'm like, "Oh, you mean when I told you it was a bad idea to play 3 colors for this 2 cards, and then you lost because you got mana screwed, you got color screwed?" Like, you think maybe there was a connection there? But it's part of the learning process.
What's the craziest story of that y'all have had?
Well, when I started playing Magic, I learned it the hard way because there was a guy at the store who was good. He was an aggressive person. I don't know if he like drank on Fridays or whatever, but he always was just kind of like, kind of out of it and pretty aggro.
Your story's taking too long, Corbin.
And
I wanted like a TLDR. This is
whenever he would look at my deck and I wanted advice, I wanted to get better. So I listened to the people who won every week. And that was this guy. He would take cards in my deck and say, this is unplayable. And he would literally throw it across the room. He'd just take it. He'd flick that thing across the room. I'd have to go pick up 3 or 4 cards that he threw away. But hey, I learned, I guess. I got good.
Everybody values that guy's advice, but
you just don't want to.
They don't like that guy. They don't reciprocate his help.
Yeah, maybe people wouldn't play the bad cards if I threw them across the room. Maybe that's what I should be going for here.
You say something really stupid, and then stupid people are like, well, I had that same thought, and I must be really smart, and then they love you. Don't tell somebody they're wrong ever. They hate that.
I love
They
being
say
told
they
I'm
want
wrong,
that,
man.
but they don't like that. Because they're like, oh, I value your advice, but they don't like you. Like, every time you tell someone they're wrong, they resent you a little bit, you know?
Huh.
Even if you were right and they were wrong, they don't want to hear it from you. Everybody murders the messenger just a little bit each time. So that's why I don't correct anybody anymore. I'm like, your deck looks great. You're awesome. You're doing great. You know what? They still lose, but they're like, he's so nice and helpful. and I didn't help. But they think I'm helpful because they're dumb.
I had Brian Kibler give me some really nice limited advice. It was 2012 or so. It was Gate Crash. It was an SCG Open, I think, in Gate Crash, or a GP. I don't remember. But I splashed blue for Simic Manipulator in my Orzhov deck, and it was definitely a stretch. But I thought that because the card was very, very powerful, what it is, that like it might have been worth splashing for. But then he took like 15 minutes out of his day to just like explain how he would have changed the color combination and just played straight Orzhov. And even though the deck would be like weaker by a relatively small margin, that like it was worth the consistency added. And then he handed me my deck and went on my way. And Brian Kibler is one of my favorite ex-pro players because of that.
Yeah, like.
Well, he might be back to Magic now.
He might be. I didn't until I started doing Mighty Modern and get a lot of deck lists. I never really understood. I was like, oh, it only takes 5 or 10 minutes to help somebody with the deck. Why don't you just help them with their deck? But then I start, and I'm nowhere near the level of people who get hit up about this stuff, right? But I get a lot of questions about stuff. Check out my Sweet Modern Brew, and it's just so hard to do that.
Explain to people why their 4x1 with nothing deck is not going to make the Pro Tour.
Well, or honestly, to even like feel like it's almost better to say, I'm sorry, I really just can't provide feedback on everyone's deck all the time, because you feel very bad doing that. But it's almost better than giving people your 30-second advice,
You should just no wait. See, that's a false dichotomy. You have a third option, and that's to single them out and tell them that their deck is the one you're not going to give feedback on.
But I feel so bad every time I like look back and I'm like, oh, someone sent me this Facebook message 2 months ago, and I like maybe I saw it for a second while I was on my way out the door, and then by the time I looked at my phone again, I had 5 other messages. And
if they're asking Corbin for deck help, like they're dumb already. So like.
I got a pretty good handle on Modern and what works and what doesn't. I've played a lot of brews.
And yet you play Merfolk.
Merfolk's good right now. Force of Negation was a big deal for Merfolk.
Yep, it's like Humans, but way worse.
Humans is unplayable right now. Merfolk's put up better results than Humans over the past couple months. Check it out. Look it up. Force of Negation was very good for Merfolk, and the metagame became very hostile to Humans. It surprised me too.
I could see the metagame being very hostile to Humans. I can't see Merfolk being better.
Merfolk has Force of Negation. It's that simple.
You can island walk the paradoxical Urza player to 8 life before they kill you.
Or you can beat them because you get to Force of Negation them when they try to win, and the Humans player can't. That's
true.
Humans deck is sort of like, pardon the analogy, but a house of cards. Each tax effect in the deck, or you can't play this effect or take it out of your hand effect. They all build on one another, and when it works, it's very frustrating to play against because you don't get to do anything. But once people like Fatal Push was a thing that made a big difference too. But once the first piece starts to fall, everything starts to become easier. Once you can kill the meddling mage by top decking another removal spell, well, now you get to unlock the other card in your hand to kill the Kitesail Freebooter to get back your sweeper. Like, plus the power level of the format just increased so much that sometimes you just kill them anyways, right? And Force of Negation is the only reason Merfolk is playable and Humans is not. And it's not like Merfolk's great, but it has put up a fairly solid tier 2 results over the past few months. While we're on the subject of talking Merfolk, all right, let's move on. Let's do some pick of the week before we get out of here this week. Who wants to go first?
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
I'll
go first since I went last.
You can go first.
I talked about Alela and how it's the most popular deck on EDH Rec, despite not being in the set. And you have to buy a $50 Commander Precon to get it, or Bro Precon to get it. But Alela is like the deck, and it's farting out a lot of fairy tokens, and it's good to have a lot of fairy tokens. And it has unlocked a card that has been hovering around $5 and is beginning to sell out all over the internet. That card, can anyone guess what blue enchantment is going nuts when people are going wide with tokens? That's right, it's Opposition.
Go figure.
Opposition is just quietly selling out. And Psy Master Thopterist is a deck people are playing it in. Kaikar Wins Fury and Alela. Those are all cards that came out in like the last 18 months or so. So between those decks, it's just pushing opposition up, and it's just a brutal way to lock people out of the game. And if you can make enough tokens to like really lock people, that's cool. But you couple it with a Winter Orb, and you don't really need to tap them that much, you know, because you just like they only untap 1 or 2 lands a turn, or you just like frost down everything relevant and win in combat. You know, it's very easy to cast an artifact or an enchantment spell to trigger Alela when you have like 0 cost artifacts that you're like looping. So you can just make a huge number of fairies very easily in EDH and just oppo everybody out of the game. It's not going to stay under $5 for long, and when it goes, it's going to go to 10. So there are several printings opposition. The art in the 7th edition printing is super ugly, but the opposition from Urza's Destiny is nuts looking, real good. And there was like the masterpiece
Just
invocation.
2 old white guys yelling at each other. It's fantastic.
Well, it's Todd Lockwood. He's a good artist. And whatever white dude feng shui is going on with Mark Brill's 7th edition art, I think we can all agree that the Urza's Destiny's one is much better. So, 2 printings, both insanely expensive foils and a masterpiece. So, opposition's just
I forget that card has a masterpiece version.
Yeah, because you can't tell what it is. You look at it, you can't read what it says, and then it's just like a bunch of shit on the battlefield. Like if you took the art from opposition and put it and told someone it was Damnation, it'd be like, oh yeah, that's all the people dying. Like we're Yu-Gi-Oh already. You're like, we don't want to be Yu-Gi-Oh. We're Yu-Gi-Oh. Look at these stupid masterpiece invocations.
Those are Pokemon. We were Yu-Gi-Oh during Amonkhet. We're Pokemon now. It made sense. It was flavorful in Amonkhet to be Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, because no, we're Pokemon because Teferi exists and you can only play Pokemon at sorcery speed.
Well, that's true too. It was flavorful during Amonkhet to be Yu-Gi-Oh because that's also Egyptian themed. Now we're Pokemon.
Well, whatever it is, I don't like it. It's not the magic Richard Garfield intended. Keyforge is magic as Richard Garfield intended, and that's what we
and artifact.
Yeah, rip.
Yeah.
I've got.
It's okay. He's making a trivia game with Ken Jennings, which I will buy. So
that sounds cool, actually.
I've got a Core Set 2020 Mythic Rare, and it's Kalia Zenith Seeker.
Okay, why?
This card's $1.
And
that's pretty cheap.
It's a legendary creature in 3 colors that says Angel, Demon, Dragon, Flying Vigilance, Casual, Dirtle Monster.
It does have a lot of those words on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, regular Kalia is like $20. Granted, it has seen a lot fewer printings, and it is more of a Timmy commander than this one is. I think this one more often goes in decks than leads them. But I mean, this card's $1, man. Like, I was listing batches today, and I came across this card, and I declined to list it at $1. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's a mythic rare from a core set that probably isn't going to be opened as much as its counterparts.
It just got lost in the shuffle, man. There was so much from that. There's just been so much that has happened since then. It just got lost in the shuffle. People even attempting to build it as a commander or anything. Probably makes its way into the 99 of a bunch of decks.
I'm just saying that this card has Angel, Demon, and Dragon written all over it. It is a beloved character that a lot of people already know and associate with. And I think it should be worth more than $1 a couple years down the road.
Go for it.
Not anytime soon, but eventually.
I've got a recent pick here. Commander 2019 Ghostly Prison is $3. Every other printing of Ghostly Prison is at least $5. Something tells me that rather than the other 10 versions, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the other 7 printings, rather than them all having in price, this is likely going to trend up to 3 or 4. So I think it's most that whether it, hits 5 or whatever, we see these every year. They the new cards, the reprints come out rather, and they start off cheaper than their counterparts, and 6 months later they've all equalized somewhere, and it's almost always up for the new ones. So Ghostly Prison at under $3 seems like it's a solid bet to go up to $4 or $5.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. As a reminder, we want to shout out our sponsor, Channel Fireball. All these cards we're talking about here, you can go check out at channelfireball.com/buy list. They are giving a 40% store credit bonus right now to everything you're trading in. So whether you want to sell any of the cards we've talked about selling or pick up any of the cards we've talked about buying, we want to thank Channel Fireball for sponsoring the podcast, and make sure to go check them out for content as well as selling. Everybody, this is Brainstorm Brewery. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.